And we're just taking the weight off of the engine and the trans. And now we're gonna take these brackets off. All right guys, now we've got the air filter box over there out. This ram air tube here that comes out here, out. And they're both down there. And I also had to disconnect this hose here and that connector from down there, right there. And I've also taken the 2 bolts from, one's there and the other one's back there, and this bracket sits on it for the cables for your shift linkages. Alright, now we're going to remove those 2 nuts for the slave cylinder. Next, we'll be taking the starter out. There's a bolt right there. And then on the top side, let's see, right here, if you can see that, where my finger is, I think there's stuff in the way. Well, on top, and then you gotta get out from underneath here. And inside of there, you got to get to that 13 mil bolt. At least hold on, I think it's a 13. Yep, 13 mil. And loosen it, and then you can drop the starter down. Alright, so I can't really get down there that great with my phone, but we took that bolt out. That was the one that went into the starter. Then we took this top bell housing bolt out. And there's one more right there that we also took out. Alright, so there was a few more bell housing bolts around the bottom side. And this one right here was a little bit of a pain to get to. But it's all said and done now. We got the transmission out and there's the clutch. Alright, so now I'm just cleaning out the inside of the bell housing. And we got this throw up bearing here. There was a clip here. Pull it down, and then you're able to pull this whole assembly off like that. And I already got the new one on here, and it's nice, and it doesn't shimmy around. But look at this old one. This old one was destroyed. There's nothing left inside of there. Alright, as you can see, the transmission is much cleaner now. I took my pressure washer there and just gave it a blast. Scrubbed the inside out with some purple power and the outside. Scrubbed it before I sprayed, of course. Cleaned up pretty nice. Gonna let it dry, and I'm gonna get started on this here clutch. Alright guys, so now we have the clutch here, and we need to take out these 6 mil bolts. They're an Allen head. And you want to do it in a crisscross pattern, like a star pattern. You don't want to go all the way around. Alright, so here's the old clutch. And as you can see, let me flip it over here. It was grinding the metal off of here. This thing is like paper thin, y'all. See that there's some scuff marks on here, some heat damage, some major heat. Got the flywheel resurfaced, and we got the new clutch in. Unfortunately, I do not have an alignment tool because it has not came in the mail yet. Keeps getting back ordered, so I'm gonna try and do it without one. But it's only 6 bolts to take it out and to put the new one back in. So when I was taking the transmission out, I forgot to mention that bracket there. I had to pry out the way a little bit because the transmission bell housing was coming back away from the engine and hitting it and not letting me pull the transmission far enough back. So I just pried it out my way a little bit, and then I was able to slide the transmission out. As you can see now, we got the starter bolts on. and all of our surrounding bell housing bolts on. Now all that's left is just to torque them. So all of your bell housing bolts are going to be torqued to 28 foot-pounds all the way around. Alright, so now that I got all my bell housing bolts back in and torqued down, I put these two bolts right here in for your shift linkages or whatever, right there. Made sure it was all tight and secure. This one did pop off, but I was able just to pop it right back on. Now I'm about to put the brackets on. I got a jack up under there holding everything up right now, so I can jack it up and down as needed to line everything up. Let's get to it. And another thing, these 4 bolts that we just tightened down here, they get torqued to 28 foot-pounds for that transmission bracket. And for these 3 right here, they're going to be torqued to 18 foot-pounds plus an additional 90-degree turn on top of that. For that one, and the one down there. And that's for the upper mount that bolts to the frame and the body, not the one to the transmission. For this nut right here on the top of the mount, we're gonna go with 74 foot-pounds. Alright, so now we have the ECM bolted back in place. And we're just going through making sure we haven't missed anything so far, but we're about to put the subframe back up in there. We hit it with a pressure washer so it looks pretty nice and clean now. Here we go. Alright, so now I got my 2 bolts in the front here, 2 bolts in the front and there. I got that bolt there, and the same one on the other side, and those 3 and those 3 right there. And everything's loose right now, but I'm about to go ahead and torque it all down. And if anyone was wondering how I got that up there, I used a jack. I used this jack in this 4x4. You don't need the 4x4 unless you're lifted too high off the ground like I am. But I raised it up and got the back 2 bolts in first, and then raised the front up little by little and got these 4 to line up, 1, 2, and then the 2 on the opposing side. And then I got, once it slips on these pins, so there's a pin that goes into this square tubing here, but inside of there's a pin, and after you line those pins up, it all pretty much drops right into place. So these 4 bolts right here, that bolt to the subframe into the front, they're gonna get torqued to 14 foot-pounds. Now we're going to install the right side axle. And it's gonna come in from over there and pop straight into here. So when I was trying to tighten down these tie rod ends, the bolt just kept spinning, and obviously it's not torqued down all the way. And what you got to do is you got to get your either a wrench or one of these through sockets and put it on there, and then inside of there you have a little hole where this Allen key will fit inside. And after you get that Allen key nice and snug inside of there, it will come over here and hit that and stop. See, there we go. Now it's spinning. We're tightening it down now. The stud's not spinning.